Hey, hi, can you hear me? I am live, and hopefully I'm live. So I don't know. Things are really kind of sketchy here. If you come on, well, there's nobody here, so I'm just gonna start talking. It looks like the camera's on. This is beautiful. I'm just gonna show you where I am. This is a beach club. It's really beautiful here in Baru, Colombia. And I just thought that I would give you some information about Colombia that is pretty up to date. I moved here almost 20 years ago, and I have had a lot of experience traveling in the country. And I I think that I'll just put on some music and see if anybody comes, and then if nobody's here in 5 minutes, I will start talking about just basic facts about Colombia and my impression of the situation today and why I have chosen to live in the countryside as opposed to urban areas anywhere on earth. Hey, 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 hey. All right, Tony. How are you? Do you have any questions for me? Would you like to come down to Colombia? Is there some reason why you're not coming to Colombia? It's not expensive. It's going up in price because they're standardizing the prices of all food, essentially, and everything. But otherwise, would you like to come down and do you have questions about it? I just think like there's the CIA and Hollywood have done such a major job on making people think that it's just so dangerous down here, and it's not. Primarily because everybody is fluoridated, and the fluoride makes people super low frequency and unfortunately affects their intelligence. Not all of them, but a significant portion, and definitely not all of them because a lot of people did not take the you know what. So that's good. Okay, cool. So where did you go? Where did you travel to? Tony says he's never left the U.S. until this year. So where did you go this year, Tony? And you're out in Arizona, right? So I can just tell you that there are direct flights from Los Angeles, and I've taken it, and it's roughly like 6 hours or 7 hours. And I have a flat Earth story there. I knew a woman who worked with me with the U.S. government, who was a federal contractor, and had worked a lot longer for the devil than I had. And she was American, and she was raised in California, but also spent a lot of time in Washington and studied in London, and was a good friend. This is pre-children, and one day she said, "Yeah, we were talking about flights to New York or to Los Angeles from the capital of Colombia, which is Bogota." And I was like, "No, California's got to be a lot farther." And she was like, "No, it's not." And I said, "Well, how? What are you talking about? California is farther because the maps that I had seen until that point showed." And I grew up coming to Colombia because my father was Colombian. So I looked at maps throughout my life, and it looks really East Coast to South America. Top of South America is Colombia. But at that time, the South American continent was just adjusted a little bit to the right. I don't know now. I've seen Brian on Dose of Reality kind of show maps moving, and I think that's interesting. And as you know, Tony, we don't believe in the typical uh, map. But in any case, I was a total glober, like totally normal person who didn't question anything. And I was like, well, I mean, I questioned some things, but not like now. And I was like, how the same distance? So now, like 2 hours, and like I just couldn't believe that she believed that, but I knew she was sure of it. So I think that's like a little tip from maybe our friends that work in the cabal, because I definitely think that she's was or is part of that, or has information from that group of people. Um, and so I think that's interesting. And I'm now looking at zetetic, the zetetic map. Have you seen that, Tony? Okay, now I'm going to look at what you wrote. The government, like any government parks with baseball fields and football? Yes, many. The government owns everything because it's already a communist state. So when the government continues to own things, it's either it's government plus fascism, right? The big property owners. So they come together, and that's called totalitarianism, and that's what you have right now. So if it's owned by Coca-Cola or Advent Health, the stadium, that same model is going on here. And yes, that are public and government owned. I don't know if Zetetic is in line with Samuel Robotham. I don't know who he is, but I just started watching, and I don't know, spent 2 hours on it, but really interesting. I posted the video um, that someone posted in the chat. I think on Ironworks. I really enjoy listening to Ironworks when I can. You go on there, and anyway, the video, um, the word Zetetic means that it is based on empirical data, is what I understand. It's based on empirical data. So, if somebody traveled to Antarctica and they found that the width or the horizontal length of Antarctica was this amount of miles or meters, that's what allegedly this map is it's based on empirical data collected from, is what I understand. But anyway, the link is here. I can't. I feel bad. No, but I think it's flat. Maybe flat zoids or flat truths. I feel really bad that I should know the name. But the content producer, I think, is the guy who came up with this map, and I think it's something we should look at. So you went to Italy. I lived in Italy for a little bit, and yeah, but it's pretty communist, man, and it's super gay. Just did the whole feminism thing really early there, and the men live with their moms, and gay marriage was really early there, and women are hardcore. But maybe they're changing now. Like women are changing, right? Like we've all changed, so maybe they've changed. If you remember Dennis from Flactour, he has taught. Okay, I don't. I will need to look at RoboSam. Thank you, and you can put a link in. Yeah, it might be Flatworks, but well, there are some beautiful, beautiful people walking by. So I'm gonna put just how pretty this is. And this where I'm staying, but people rent out apartments here. We're right on the beach. We're in Baru Island. Next to us is the Sofitel Calablanca resort. So it's really, really nice. But I think that if from the last week, I went to Tolu, and I went to a lovely, cute, small hotel, which I highly recommend if you just really want to get away, called Costa Linda. And I put links, and you can also ask me, and I'll give you the links. But it was looks like it was owned by an American, and that he died recently. I wonder what from. About a year ago, he was married to a Colombian, and I guess she's keeping it going, so that's good. But it's really, really nice and just lovely and very well priced. Like you can like feel like royalty, and spend maybe $150 in 24 hours and have everything you want. as far as like things like food and drink and a nice room and being in the ocean and swimming. Those are the kind of things I like. But anyway, that's there's a lot of uh, beautiful beautiful women here and very nice men. I would I think that things would be better and can be better if people decided to start teaching their children the importance of telling the truth, of not lying, because lying here is super duper embedded in the culture. And I think it is in the United States too. But here it's like, yeah, I'll see you in 20 minutes. And there's like, that's an hour. And you can tell the extent of precision on time. Uh, the precision is better as you go towards the interior part of the country, that is controlled by time. And with everything, time, right? We are controlled by the concept of time, and which thus creates fear, right? And fear is what makes us, which makes our brain paralyzed and we can't think. So time is a construct, right? Someone pointed this out, and it was so coherence 888. I like the number 8. It has to do with infinity. I like the concept of the analemma. And I found that the analemma, according to this guy, and it makes sense. Who was it? I think it was in Spanish. Anyway, he said you can't you can't count on the analemma being real because the time, like being 3 o'clock, like that's a construct. Because as the seasons move, then 3 o'clock is just an hour in the afternoon, depending on the span of the day, based on where the sun is between the tropics, right? So that's like a really good way to understand how time is a construct. And people say we have 24 hours, but we have, a circuit of the sun. Some people are positing that time is going faster right now. I don't think so, but I think it's an interesting thought. But I don't know. But I know that we can use things like in after midday and say before sunset or at sunset. And we probably measurements of light for our time gauges as opposed to machines created by man. And now that most people don't even look at a real physical clock that had to be wound up, then we have the fear or the reality that time can be manipulated by whatever the sources of our computers or our cell phones, every digital item. Time, of course, Greenwich, of course, England, right? They set the time. Really? Like, when are we going to realize that this is it's such a small group of people, and they're frankly not very creative. We can bust out of this if we just decide to. And it's painful at some level, but good. Okay, so I'm going to read comments. Hello. Okay, thank you, Tony. You're going to look at my passport. Don't write anything down. This is me. That's it. And they were like, this is just going in this notebook. And that's great. I have looked into the Antikythera device, and I'm bummed because I really loved that documentary, and I really got into it. But look at the time frame that they found the Antikythera device. So that's all in that 1920s to 1940s period where they were kicking out hard the periodic table of elements. And that Antikythera device has a 12-month calendar on it. I think zodiac means 12 months, but I'm not sure. But anyway, I'm presuming that because Dave's application has a zodiac, and I think it's 12. But I think the real calendar, as I've stated before, is 13 months. And I think that Antikythera, it can't be that old if it's got a 12-month calendar. But it's still fascinating. I love that it's got something like 24 gauges, and it's just beautiful. I love that they pointed out that that's man's work combined with nature's rhythms. Thought it was really beautiful, the whole documentary. But I question the veracity of it being that old. Thanks. All right. Well, Tony, I'll give you some basic facts here. You can fly from Orlando for about $220. Round trip is about the average price. Air. And that's round trip nonstop to Bogota. It's like 2 hours and 45 minutes to Cartagena, which is an airport, which is about an hour from here, but only about an hour and a half from here in a car. And shitty traffic and passing by these horrible chemical plants. But if you go through on the ocean, it's roughly an hour. Get off the boat and you're like 10 minutes from the airport. How cool is that? But it costs more going on the boat, but it's really freaking cool to go on the boat, right? And I'm hoping that we will return on the boat to the airport. And this is a country, it used to be of 45 million, but I think all of us question population numbers. I think a lot of that's contrived and made up, and probably we're a lot less on Earth. That's what I think, but that's the numbers they give us. So it's about the size of Texas or a little bit bigger as far as physical size, but I think it's actually a lot bigger looking at this zetetic map and what I think, because I think Colombia, there's something to the fact that Washington, D.C. is District of Columbia, right? Like, I think the word Columbia merits a serious investigation. And I have done some, but I still haven't figured out, Tony, how to successfully have my scrolling screen and my face in the corner. Or not even my face. I just haven't figured it out. And I'm going to get my daughter, who just is now at the age that I'm going to start like cleaning out my emails of all the spam bullshit and unsubscribing, hardcore unsubscribing, and even writing them and saying, please take us off the list, right? Those are the kind of chores we're going to be doing in homeschooling on her tech training. Because my daughter know all the little tricks. You know, a good one that a lot of people don't know is Control-Alt-Delete. I think a lot of people don't know that. Did you know that? Control-Alt-Delete. So I'm going to read. Mario Garza talks a lot about 12 and 13 dilemma. He was supposed to talk at Flectiverse, but had to leave it. I know. I was bummed about that. I know somebody was going to talk, and I'm bummed. But what are we going to do? We got to do another event. Someone's got to do an event. I know that lovely lady. What was her name? It was like Trisha or something. Her name was cute. It was like Carolyn with no. What was so tough about planning this unless she knew that the hurricane was coming? And like, why didn't she show up for the beginning of it? I was surprised by that, man. I would have been there like people and like telling them it's all going to be okay. But of course, that's because I'm in the bar restaurant industry. And the most important thing to do is to have people feel comfortable. Okay. Main thing holding me here is my job. I worked 15 years already, and I should leave and start. You should start a new chapter. Colombia may not be the place to start, but I'm not going to speak negatively, but we can talk about it. But it could be a place that you visit on your start to examine 10 places that could be where you want to settle. Tony, you have the money. You can just go take small trips, take a week or 2 weeks, and just enjoy looking at where do you want to live on Earth, and you can do it. And I would recommend living in wherever you live on earth, make sure it's the countryside, and really get into the sovereignty movement. Sovereignty movement. I really like The Sovereign's Way by Gregory Paul. If you write me, I can. But Sovereign's Way, Gregory Paul, connected to Daniel Zeck. If you follow Daniel Zeck, Zeck, these are people in the health movement too. So look into that. And I like to always remind people to look at Tom Cowan's work, Cowan, Dr. Tom Cowan. He has a website. Start watching his videos. Totally expands the mind. Totally in line with flat Earth. Just the germ stuff is super duper 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 small and stupid, and the space stuff is super duper 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 big and stupid, right? Oh yeah, Mark Sargent. Oh, Carol with a K. Okay, good. I remembered. Hey there. Hello, Flat Earth Nation. How are you? Thank you for joining me. I'm about to wrap this up, but I'm really appreciative you're here. Um, you're gonna build a flat Earth camp? Hallelujah. Great. I'm coming. Great. That's a great idea. A camp? Awesome. Um, cool. Cool. I'm psyched about the Flat Earth camp. Keep me posted. What part of the country are you doing it? Maybe there should be a bunch of them. But I mean, we have to be careful of associating, because I think the association of people is what is the downfall of individual thought. And that's what I saw happen in Colombia with my work in the deep state agency as a public-private partnership specialist, which basically means complete control, totalitarianism, and royalty, which is red and blue combined equals purple, which is the color of tyranny. And I worked as the expert on that bullshit, and I didn't know. Okay, I was really stupid, and that's why I have this channel, because I'm really embarrassed about, but also shameful, and I cry a lot because I was just in the countryside, and I do know that small farmers' lands were taken away by laws that we lobbied for to pass in Colombia that essentially encouraged small farmers to pay taxes that they never had to pay before. And then they raised the taxes to an amount that they couldn't afford, and then they took the land away based on them having, quote unquote, formalized their property, which was what I worked on as communications director. It was a $72 million program financed by U.S. taxpayers in 5 years. I left, and I was asked to leave, or I wasn't renewed in year 3, because I think I was catching on to what it was. But it took me a while to catch on. And I also worked on a program that GMO'd the country. So if either of you come to Colombia, hopefully the idea would be that you bring like flat earth and nutritional ideas that are focused on getting natural seeds back into the supply chain, like natural seed, people growing their own food, and neighbors buying their own food from their neighbors, and having access to pure salt, not fluoridated salt. Here in Colombia, they put fluoride in the salt, they put cyanide in the salt, and also they bleach it, as they do in most parts of the world, which sucks. And they also add iodine, which I think takes away the electrical curing wonderful properties of salt by adding iodine. Okay, guys, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. And anyone who's watching this, thank you so much for watching this. God bless you. If you have any questions about Colombia, I can do this again, and maybe actually schedule it. And it's just the Wi-Fi's been crazy, and I'm just going when I feel the spirit moves me. And we know who that spirit is, right? Which is all the good, which is all the truth, which is all natural law, which is logic. Don't forget, John 1:1 is talking about natural law and logic. All right, I'll see you hopefully again, and I'll be, what do you think on Amish people? I think they do some stuff correctly. I like the Amish. I do not know of any Amish. Good question. Good question. I don't know about Amish in Colombia, but I have heard of Mennonites being in South America. I have not encountered them in Colombia. I would love to. Actually, I will research that. That's a really good question. But there's a lot of indigenous, beautiful villages where they still do the serious natural way of life. But then there's like a little store within 10 miles, and then they have already now have cell phones, which they didn't have before. So, but there are still some few tribes that are living off the grid. And I'm thinking I'll go to the Amazon the next time I'm here. And what am I doing? I am talking to 10 people a day as I do where I go about growing their own food. And the nice thing about Colombians is that it's not that far of a generation off that we're growing their own food, and their mothers, living grandmothers, were using homeopathic treatments that I've been hearing about since I moved here in 2005, but I was too snobby and stupid. I was like, give me the cream from the drugstore, right? Now I don't do any of that, as you can see. I don't even shave. So, yeah, we can all find our community in any place because there's always people that love nature. And that we go to places where we can find others who love nature, but we don't need to create a formal association, and we don't need to create some formal organization. We're just people that choose to live next door to other people that think in the same way. And hopefully that thinking is based on truth, critical thinking,